Understanding reduces the greatest to simplicity, and lack of it causes the least to take on the magnitude. Raymond Holliwell. Oh, my friends, that is so true. You notice how simple we keep our charts. We don't make things complicated and then focus on what isn't important. We keep it simple. We reduce the greatest to simplicity. And the greatest is price movement, and how is it backed up by volume? When you can understand the interplay between price on the Heikin-Ashi candlesticks, remember they help take out that volatility back and forth so you can see what's really going on with price and not get focused on any jumping around. And then volume tells you what kind of psychology is behind that price movement. Now let's jump first into the S&P 500. Like I said, stocks are down for the day. Both our indexes, S&P down 0.19%. Going into the fifth week, well, getting almost through the fifth week of down movement. This started in mid-December and has continued to trend down since then. Should be up to average volume by the end of the week. Didn't reach average volume on the two-day chart for Wednesday and Thursday, the 15th and 16th, respectively. Did have an up movement, an up candle at least, down a little bit for today, but didn't have enough energy for the candlestick to push through the weekly trend line. Two-day pushed through, but has started heading back toward it. So again, overall, downward pressure on the S&P. We see it reflected in the charts, particularly on the weekly, as we're in a downtrend. What about the NASDAQ 100? It's down a little more for the day, 0.70% versus 0.19% for the S&P. And you can see we have a bigger down candle here. Little wick on the top if you look very closely, and a wick about the size of the candle on the bottom. We're already right there at average volume, so we should exceed it by the end of the day on Friday. You can see as far as the two-day chart goes, almost hit, didn't quite get to average volume, and you can see that the candle itself didn't get up to, like the S&P, up to that weekly trend line. And when you look at the half day, you can see how lackluster the volume has been for the last day and a half, and how at the end, as we got into the afternoon on Thursday, we can see that we went up with a doji right below the weekly trend line. So even more downward pressure on the NASDAQ 100. What about 20-year U.S. government bonds? They were up a little bit for the day, not much, 0.34%. Been up for the last 2 days, pushed through the weekly trend line on the half day, our smallest chart with least effect. What do we see on the 2-day? Lots of volume and, of course, a green candle, but sitting right there on the weekly trend line. As we look, we can see we've reached a lower low this week, getting up toward average volume. I'm guessing we'll probably reach it tomorrow. And again, we have a lot of downward pressure continuing on 20-year U.S. government bonds, despite being up a little bit for the day. What about gold? Gold going into its second week of up movement. We can see on the 2-day chart how back on the 2nd of January, starting date of that 2-day candle, things started popping up, then fell off on the next 2-day candle, then a nice up move on the following 2-day candle, then pulling back. And then this latest one popping up again, a little stutter stepping, but nonetheless gold moving up. And again, up for the day, 0.69%. So gold catching a little bit of fire. Now, where might it stall? Well, we can see where gold reached its prior high back on the week beginning 28th of October, and that high was 257.71. Gold's got a little ways to go before it gets there, so we'll wait, watch, and see how much fire gold can take. Let's look at Bitcoin. We've seen Bitcoin spinning tops going on the third week. More volatility this week, both up and, well, down at least. Sort of the opposite of last week's candle. Had more volatility on the upside last week, less this week, more down. We're not up to average volume yet. Could get that way. We can see for the last 3 days where Bitcoin has been moving up. Indecision in the morning on Thursday with that green spinning top but up movement in the afternoon. We look at the high back on Wednesday afternoon, and that was 114.03 and 113.90, so not quite hitting that high on Wednesday afternoon as it on Thursday afternoon. So we'll keep an eye on that. 2-day chart, push through that weekly trend line. Hard to tell much of anything there. So we'll keep an eye on Bitcoin. 3 days of up movement. You know, we saw that happen before, didn't we? Yes, we did. And of course, we hit a high back then of 116.15. Our high so far on this latest move, 114.03. So again, got a ways to go if it's even going to get up there and route back down again. But really, Bitcoin just sort of in a sideways slide, tending down at this point. That is where we are. Don't forget, Patreon members, you will be receiving the weekly vertical crossovers this evening. We'll be sending that email out to you. And of course, it will also have in it the Charting Cryptos, Commodities, and Currency video. Those things we always put up first at the Patreon page. And if for some reason you don't get the email, or they're going to spam, or you just can't find it, or you're traveling, just go to the Patreon page, log in. You always find everything we put up there first. Thank you so much for being with us, my friends. God bless. All the best from the whole team at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.